catering use at its busiest hour?
Like I said, it's really a storage for catering, so all our equipment's there, so I guess the busiest hour we'd be in the loading zone, loading up prepped food and all our equipment for an event, so there's not a standing roll of employees there. We do that at our restaurants.
And so it's, in terms of loading the truck, is that 5 employees, is that 1 employee? Can we have an idea of the number?
1 and me usually. A lot of times it's usually me.
Okay. So
unfortunately.
So at the peak hour, you would say it would be 2 employees?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So,
And the loading zone is the crosshatch area on the map, and that's the only area you're gonna allow for loading and unloading on the property.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. Okay. All right. I don't have any further questions for you.
How many employees do you have?
Catering wise, not many. Like I said, we only do, we have 2 events this month, so that's not our business. Hence why this building doesn't make sense for us to occupy most of it. Employees at our different restaurants, a lot, maybe 40 in max with part-time people in the summer and at the cantina next door, and maybe 15 in the winter, sort of thing. Downtown, 90.
Now that's
in the summer.
Now that's in total for Diego's in general, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, exactly.
And so just so I can clarify.
We don't allow parking for them in the summer. It just doesn't work.
Right. And so I can clarify for the catering use, I think you said that the frequency that the catering is even occurring at this property is on a time frame of 2 to 3 times a month. This is not a weekly or daily sort of occurrence that is even in use.
Yeah, it's not really a focus of our business, but we got enough requests where we're like, we'll take them. We know what we can do. We do taco bars and people for small events and things. We don't really do full-scale catering. So.
All right. I have no further questions at this time.
Thank you.
All right.
Do you want to wait to close and we'll open it to the public?
Yeah.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak for or against the petition? See? Yeah?
Yes, I would like to address the board. Thank you. Again, thank you, Mr. Chair, Gerard Galvin, on behalf of the City of Newport. I would like to begin by saying, on behalf of the city, that the city is in favor of small business. We don't like the fact that we feel compelled to be here tonight objecting to this petition, but there are a lot of issues going on with relation to the border with the City of Newport here, and the parking going on these 2 properties is of significant concern. And we think, frankly, that we're not here to shut down this business by any means, but we think the proposal thus far is not quite up to snuff and not ready for your approval yet. We feel there's too many questions. And I would start by pointing out a word that the applicant himself mentioned a number of times, which is the word confusing. It's a confusing application. There's 3 or 4 different businesses in play in terms of the Diego's property on one side, a catering business, an ice cream shop that previously existed, but the signage is still there, how the brewery is going to fit into this. But what is clear is that the new petition for the brewery, while it has been given a designation of manufacturing, it truly brings with it significantly more and intense uses than just that manufacturing. I think it's a red herring to rely on that 4 parking spot minimum. And I understand Mr. Kane's point, but we've received testimony that they're going to be hosting the public from 7 days a week in the summertime, from 5 to 11 o'clock at night. And I think the idea that if you put their employees in 4 of those spots, that 8 spots are sufficient for that is not appropriate. It's not realistic. And there were repeated references to shared parking agreements with other properties off-site. And there's an ordinance that addresses that in your code, and it's 1301. And it, I believe, calls for the fact that all parking facilities and loading facilities have to be contained on the site seeking relief, and that the zoning board and the applicant can consider shared parking agreements after such a proposal has gone through development plan review. And that has not happened here. And I think we're seeing an application that shows it hasn't gone through the sufficient screening yet. And if it goes through development plan review, we analyze some of these things, and some of these parking agreements are flushed out and developed more, maybe that addresses some of the concerns. But you've been presented with a site plan today, and I saw it today for the first time, that flipped the whole proposal. And it doesn't even identify where the parking usage is on the site they're purporting to drive all the traffic over. And I'd suggest to you again, we don't want to shut them down, we don't want to end their hope of having a successful business there, but this isn't quite ready for prime time yet. And I think it's only fair for you to require a better understanding of how this is going to work. They're proposing 3 new uses on top of a current use on this property that has no ingress to it, and it has 12 parking spaces. It's just not sufficient.
What are the 3 new uses?
Well, the retail component,
Okay.
I'm going to go in and pick up my 30-pack, the drinking, the bar component, and the manufacturing component, on top of a catering component, which is going to remain.
The catering was already there, right? There was already retail there? So they
I don't
had
know.
retail, when the both.
Okay, so 2.
Bodega always had retail.
Okay,
And they always had the catering facility there,
okay,
right? So just the manufacturing is the change?
okay, I guess, well, arguably, yeah. I would say that the alcohol component is a significant one that requires a little bit more analysis, and I believe that is why it's here tonight in the first place. That the town has viewed that as a change in use from what is currently there. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. They're seeking a special use permit because of the addition of alcohol, I think, to this.
No, it's because it's the use in a limited business. It has
Right.
nothing to do with the alcohol. The manufacturing in a limited business requires a special use under the code.
Mr. Chairman, under the use group category of manufacturing of food and like products, I made the determination when I saw the application that it was substantially different than the food catering, although it does fit in the same subcategory. That's why I wanted the board to review the application as
But it's
a new
also,
special use permit.
even if they were making pancakes there, because it's manufacturing in a limited business, it would still require.
It's still a
use.
special use permit,
Thank
but
you.
had it been one
understand
caterer
that.
that does food preparation, another caterer that does just food
Right.
preparation moves in, you wouldn't be here tonight.
I understand.
You're here because I felt that it was enough of a deviation from that specific use. Out of an abundance of caution, I felt that the board needed to look at it because of the additional component of the retail, even though I do believe that it's purely accessory to the brewery, which is the principal use.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Chair.
That's okay. I think you understand the perspective of the city. There's serious issues going on that are beyond the purview of this board, but
In respect to that, would you agree that this property is honoring the boundaries of the city?
well, actually, I would suggest that there's another issue that was raised tonight, which was the testimony of the applicant was there was an encroachment, and what they did was they tore it all up, and then they repaved. So in my mind, they maybe in good faith attempted to curtail that, but they tore up their parking lot, and then they repaved right up to the property line. Now, that raises up an entirely new issue, which is you can't pave and put parking and right up to the property line. It requires a 10-foot buffer. You know, if they were going over what they had, maybe, but they started from scratch. They ripped it all out and they put something there and there was no approval for that. Not with, you know, they're in the setback. And it's not something that's been there for 50 years.
Okay.
It's within a year they did that.
So, are you allowed, can you disclose what the city's issue is then with this?
different, yeah.
I would like to stay away from that since
Right.
it's not relevant
Yeah,
to
and
the
I've tried to stay-
application, and I think Mr. Galvin probably
Right.
agrees that it'd be best not to go there.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan.
If I can just comment on the paving, that was always historically used as a parking lot. You can repave the parking lot. You don't have to go to development plan review until you create an additional 5,000 square feet of parking surface. So it was exempt from the development plan review. So essentially, the parking area is being maintained as it was. I mean, it wasn't a deteriorated condition, but it was being repaved.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kane.
But that doesn't address whether the shared agreements are allowed without development plan review.
But that's also, that issue comes into play if there's insufficient parking on site.
Right. That's fine. If-
And I understand, I certainly understand your question. If there's not sufficient parking on site and you're relying on
Right.
parking off-site, that's different. But that's not what, at least what the applicant is suggesting.
And that's fine. If you're being advised that there's sufficient parking, I'll rest with having my objection to that on the record, and you can make your decision. But I think very clearly, manufacturing is, none of the rest happens without the manufacturing, but this is a retail operation designed to bring people in to try and buy the beer, and I'm supportive of that. They just need to comply with the requirements there.
Thank you, Mr. Galvin.
Thank you.
With that, I'm going to close the public hearing. Yep, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your time. I would just like to address the one issue that was raised in connection with the pavement that goes beyond the property line. Yet there was always pavement there that was resurfaced. However, there was encroachment that went beyond the property line. Having that brought to our attention, we removed that whole section that went beyond the property line. We did not, go past that, but we did remove that, so that has been done. Now, in connection with this proposal this evening, you've heard a lot of testimony. This is an application by local residents who are attempting to provide a service to the local community. These are gentlemen who have been here, who want to be settled here, who do not want to be here simply for the tourist season. They are attempting to provide a service to both tourists as well as residents in the town of Middletown. When we're discussing parking, as you've heard from Mr. Kane, the applicants have met with Mr. Kane prior to any filing in order to review the application, review the parking, to confirm what could and could not occur on the site by right, as well as to make sure that it was fully in compliance with any ordinances and to seek any variances as needed. There was a determination made that this meets all of the parking requirements. There was no variance submitted in connection with the parking, as that was deemed not to be necessary. As you've heard today, that the testimony from the applicant as well as the owner supports that finding, and so we would ask that the board acknowledge the fact that there is no need for that parking. Given that the fact that there is no need for a variance in connection with parking, my clients did go above and beyond what was required in order to secure additional parking for this area in order to try and improve a already difficult situation on Lower Quinnick Avenue. I think everybody here understands that it is a sensitive area when it comes to traffic. We have done everything in our power to try and alleviate that concern while still providing a business that will serve the community. My clients have done everything in their power to make that happen. They believe that this is going to be only a benefit, and you have heard testimony to that regard. At this time, we believe that this application meets all the criteria necessary for a special use permit, as well as the variance required in connection with the walkway for that egress from the second floor. So at this time, I would ask that you please vote in favor, and with that, I have no further comments.
Thank you, Mr. Bouchard.
Thank you.
Mr. King, does this meet the parking requirements for that use, the 12 spots?
Based on what was presented to me, yes, it does.
With that, I'm going to close the public hearing. The first order of business would be to take up the variance for the egress on the second floor. We vote the variance. Can I have a motion for that?
I'll motion to approve the petition.
I'll second the motion.
Discussion? Mr. Heaney?
The testimony provided the 5 points that have to be met, Mr. Godfrey.
We're talking about the variance first for the deck. We're talking about the deck first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Got my notes wrong.
Anyone else want to speak for or against the deck?
Yeah, the dimensional variance requested is for a safety issue to meet fire code, requiring a second exit and egress from the building. I think that the proposal it meets the requirement and also provides the coverage for the safety issue to meet the fire code. So I think it's a good idea if we're going to allow businesses to reside in there on both the first and second floor to add that to the building so there's that second egress.
I concur. I think it's the minimum relief necessary to make that second floor functional. So I too am going to support the motion. Any other comment? Mr. Bacon, you're voting this evening, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Next, we'll take up a motion for the special use permit.
Make a motion. Make the first motion.
Mr. Keaton motions. Do I have a second?
I second the motion.
Mr. Curtin, Mr. Heaney seconded. Discussion?
I'm going to vote in favor of it. Based on the 5 criteria for a special use permit, I think it meets all of them. I'm going to vote in favor of it based on the 5 criteria for a special use permit. I think that the applicant has made it clear that they meet all the criteria.
I'm also going to support it, recognizing that the brewery falls in the category of food preparation. There was an issue brought up and a concern over the waste generated from the brewing process. And I believe as a requirement for having the business there, they will have to properly dispose of both any of the wastewater and also the wort that comes from the process properly in order to function as a business there. And I am confident that they will operate in accordance with those rules and regulations that is set down in code by the town. So I'm going to support it also.
Yeah, I too am going to support the petition. I appreciate the comments made by the city. I think we're in a little bit of an area with a brewery. I don't know what the traffic is going to be. I often go to Newport Vineyards and there's very little traffic there when I would think it'd be busy. I think if you look at all 5 criteria, it meets that, and especially it meets the comprehensive plan. I mean, for once, I think it actually fits into a limited business nicely in that it's going to employ local people. It's going to, increase an underutilized piece of property, which is part of the comprehensive plan. I think if the parking becomes an issue, we'll have to, then it becomes a city issue, not a zoning issue. So I too am going to support it. No other comments? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, say nay. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Prepare the decision. Shoot it to Gerard at the same time, please. Thank you.
Who seconded the special use? Mr. Curtin, can you read the next case into the record?
Sure. The petition of Anastasia Patnaud for variance from section 603, 701, and 803G to allow a 288 square foot addition with a northerly side setback of 19 feet and a southerly side setback of 18.6 feet, where 20 feet is required resulting in lot coverage of 23.6%, where 20% is allowed. Said real estate is located at 667B Aquidneck Avenue and further identified as lot 23,000, is that correct? 300, 23,301, and 23,302 on Texas Assessor's Plat 114.
Yeah, read the second one.
Oh, sorry. And the petition of Anastasia Patnod for a special use permit from section 803A to allow the expansion of the non-conforming use by the addition of 288 square feet to one of two dwelling units on the lot. Said real estate is located at 667B Aquidneck Avenue and further identified as lot 23,300, 23,301, and 23,302 on Tax Assessor's Plat 114.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear the testimony tonight will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
State your name and address for the record.
Anastasia Patnod, 84 Quarry Road, Whitensville, Mass., and 667 B Aquidneck Ave, Middletown, Rhode Island.
And let me take the gentleman. Do you swear the testimony tonight will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
State your name and address for the record.
Bob Moran, 636 Mitchell's Lane in Middletown.
Thank you.
636 Moran, M-O-R-I-N.
Ms. Patno, tell us a little bit about your petition.
Okay, well, I have a little tiny 500 square foot home that I live in, and the bedroom is 7 by 10 feet, and I'm looking to add an additional bedroom so that when my daughters come to visit, or if I have guests, I have some place to put them, because it is, and then thinking of the future of retiring here.
And how big is your addition going to be?
It's about, I think it's about 300 square feet.
So the whole dwelling comes in at 800?
The addition includes a utility room, a laundry
Right.
room, a closet, and a 32-foot covered entrance.
Yeah, I looked at the plans and I went by the property. I don't know how you've lived in.
How I live in that little house, I know.
Good on you, but
Well, right now, I'm only here in the summer, so it's not too bad, but if I want to be here permanently, it's just so small.
does anyone have any questions for the petitioner?
Well, I just, the garage, to the left side was as big as the house.
So in looking at the property in the sketch, the photo that you've put in here shows the east side of the building, existing building?
Yeah,
Is that correct? And on that east side, that's where you plan on putting the addition?
exactly.
And it's going to be staggered back?
It would be in the back of that, yeah.
Okay, and that's the reason why you're asking for that slight variance, because there's a parking space
There
there?
are two parking places out in front, plus a small patio.
Yeah, I saw, and there's also some sort of pad there you're going to have to remove? Is that true? Looked like there's some kind of a cement pad or something in there.
Are you
I don't think
the
so.
contractor or the
Architect.
Pat?
contractor?
Architect.
Architect.
There's two blue posts that are blocking something. What's that right behind? Is that a well behind it?
No, it's the transformer.
Oh, transformer.
Yeah.
Okay.
So is that going to be outside of the area that you're building in and
Yeah,
remain there?
It's 6 feet from the corner of the house.
Okay. Any other questions? I think we'll ask if anyone wants to speak for or against it. I think we're good. I think we're good, so I'll ask if anyone wants to speak for or against it, so.
Okay, thank you.
All set?
Yep, we're all
All right.
set. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak for or against the petition? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. Can I have a motion to accept first the variance?
I'll make a motion to accept the variance.
Mr. Curtin makes a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Discussion? I'm going to support the petition. In the town of Middletown, we have a minimum, I believe, Mr. Keen, it's 725 square feet for a single dwelling, something like that.
On one floor, yeah.
Yeah. So
750.
750. So as I went past the property earlier this week, I thought, you know, it'd be nice to have it up a little bit bigger. So I'm going to support it. I think it's the minimum relief necessary for the full enjoyment of the property.
I'm also going to support it. When you look at that area, in the surrounding area there are a number of houses adjacent to either side of the property that have a number of homes and other dwellings there, so it's not as if this additional, just less than 300 square feet is going to be detrimental or permanently injure the appropriate use of the property. In matter of fact, it will be just, as my colleague says, it gives the owner-occupant a chance to enjoy the property to its full extent.
Any other comment?
I agree with my colleagues.
I do also.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Good luck.
Oh, we got to vote on the special use permit,
No,
guys.
the variance.
No, the variance goes first, then special use. Can I have a motion to accept the special use?
I'll make a motion to accept the special use permit.
Eric Curtin first. Do I have a second?
I second.
Tom Heaney seconds. Discussion? I think the applicant meets the 5 requirements. There's not going to be any diminution of property. It's not going to create any hardship on any of the neighbors. And I think it fits with our comprehensive plan to make Middletown a better place to live. So I too am going to support it. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Ms. Patino. She left already. Okay, I'll leave next time.
She was so happy.
Mr. Curtin, can you read the next one?
Sure, the petition of Karen L. Archie Barbera for a variance from section 603 to allow the construction of a 414 square foot detached garage with a height of 22 feet where 15 feet is allowed. Said real estate is located at 36 Walcott Ave and further identified as Lot 5 on Tax Assessor's Plat 121.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you state the testimony tonight will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
State your name and address for the record.
Karen L. Archie Barbera, 36 Walcott Avenue, Middletown.
And let me do the same for this. Are you going to be testifying?
Yes.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony tonight will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
State your name and address for the record.
Charles Sonder, 245 Metacom Avenue, Warren, Rhode Island.
Okay. Ms. Patino, tell us about your petition.
Barbera.
It's
That's
wrong.
okay. It's late.
I haven't switched yet.
Yes.
Tell us about your petition.
I'm going to build a garage because I'm renovating my home, and I'm tearing off the old garage and mixing things up, adding 2 bedrooms and a kitchen. And so I need to build a garage. I also am a landscape designer and work out of my home, so I need my garage for my tools and such. So, and I wanted to use I wanted to get a variance for 7 more feet so that I could have dry storage on the 2nd story, and I wanted to have stairs, proper stairs, as opposed to a ladder to get up to the 2nd story for dry storage. I think you all are sort of aware of where I live, the Fitton Terrace
Right.
watershed. So I'm kind of concerned about having dry storage.
So the use is going to be primarily your garage and storage?
Yes.
You're going to, where will you run your business from?
Well, I run my business out of my home. I have a little office. But I could see myself maybe on the 2nd, having a little table there and drawing, but mostly it's for dry storage. So.
I think, Mr. Kane, how do they work with home businesses? Do they have to be in the residence?
She says in one of the petitions that she wants an accessory structure for running landscape and architecture, is it?
Well, it's for my
If it's
things that I
storage,
put-
that's fine.
Correct, it is storage, yeah.
But if you
I
got
have a
one-
garage and I have tools and things like that in my garage. So I'm building a garage because I'm
But if
replacing.
you're gonna run a business out of it, it's,
No, I'm not running a business out of it. I have an office at home.
okay.
I don't have clients in my home. I don't do any of that. I go to all my
Right.
sites, yeah.
I think the only real issue there is if you were going to run a business out of it, I think it has
Correct.
to be in the primary residence.
Yes, it
Because
is.
it says the owner wishes to have an accessory garage with an office above for working on landscaping projects and for storage.
Well, it's mostly for storage. It's not really, you know, it's not going to be for only storage. It's not going to be heated per se,
Right,
so.
and 7 feet, I don't think gives you enough headroom.
What's that?
I don't think you have enough headroom.
Oh, yeah. But also, I really like the, you know, I want stairs, proper stairs, and I want to be able to use, if I'm going to build the building, I want to have enough space so that I can,
There's another shed located in the other corner of the property.
and I'd like to take all the things out of that shed and consolidate that,
And
and,
would that shed go away?
yeah.
Because that shed sits right up against the other property, I believe.
No,
Okay, it's not in the setbacks?
no, it isn't, no.
Oh, okay.
Well, you got those trees.
All right.
Well, I do see,
It
evidently it
is
is.
just inside the setback.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
It was there when I bought the property.
It's
Right,
just
no.
inside the setback.
Okay,
I
yeah.
have an updated
Yeah, can we
survey
see
if
it?
you'd like.
I'm going to mark that Exhibit A.
It also has some renderings and some images.
Thank you.
Charles, are you the engineer?
House designer.
House design.
Yes. So the existing shed's gonna go away.
Yeah, it's in not great shape.
As far as utilities for your proposed garage, it's just going to be electricity? It's not going to be running water or anything else?
Well, I would
going
like
up there?
some water. I mean, I would like an outside spigot to there. I'd like to have like a utility sink in my garage, and, you know, if I want to clean some pots and plant something or whatever. I mean, I do like to garden, too. As
No kitchen, no shower.
No shower, no kitchen. I'm
No
not going to
kitchen.
rent it out, no. Not even to my kids.
Well, you're expanding your house for that, right?
What's that?
So you're...
Well, I'm going to take 2 tiny bedrooms and make them into a master, and you know, I need 2 other bedrooms. I've got kids and grandchild, and so.
How does the height of the garage fit with the height of the house?
It's about 2 feet taller. And that's just because of the second level. The house is right now, it's a single-story ranch.
And what's the height of that?
I believe it's 17 feet at the highest of the existing house.
So it'll be roughly 4 or 5 feet higher.
Well, the grade where the, let me see, elevation 114,
It looks lower.
96, so 96 to 114, so it's actually 18 feet is the ridge of the main house.
Oh, so it's, okay, thank you.
But it's set back 100 feet from Walcott Avenue, or more than 100 feet, so it will not appear to be larger than the main house. It will probably not even be noticed, if that's what you're worried about.
So you have an existing garage in the house?
It's attached, yeah.
Attached.
Yeah.
It's part of the garage. The house and the,
And if you're going to build a detached garage,
yeah,
what are you gonna do with the original garage?
that's going to be the 2 bedrooms and the
You're gonna
kitchen.
convert that over to living space?
Yes.
And then the garage being away from the house so far?
Well, in my opinion, in the design of the property, one of the things I like about my property is the barns that are on the, what is that, the
South.
south side. And it's a very agrarian feel. The property at one point was a farm, so I like the idea that it's an outbuilding and that it sort of has a barn effect to it. So I feel like that would be more attractive than just one massive building with an additional garage on there. So
If she were to attach it, the height restriction would be 35 feet, right?
And Fitton Terrace is actually part of your property.
it is,
Oh,
yes.
okay.
And Jack Tillisner, he and I own that property together. He's my neighbor to the rear. Mr. Tillisner.
Any other questions for the applicant?
Yeah, we're just looking at the new rendering, and that's, the sketch shows that the existing garage is, he's gonna take the garage off the front altogether, so it looks good, and then,
And the setback will be the same
yep,
to
setbacks are the
Fitton
same.
Terrace.
Okay.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I'm going to ask the audience if anyone wants to speak for or against it. Would anyone like to speak for or against the petition? Come on up.
Come on up.
No, he's,
No, you're kidding.
He's kidding.
Okay. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak for or against the petition? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. Can I have a motion to accept the variance?
I'll make a motion to accept the variance.
Or the special, we only have,
variance, yeah.
only variance. Motion made by Mr. Curtin. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bacon. Discussion?
The request is is minimal and for the highest enjoyment of the property.
And I also think it's in keeping with the general characteristics of the surrounding area. One of the things the applicant was mentioning was that because of the rural feel there, she's trying to kind of blend in the new construction with the old construction, and the renovation for the house will make them look like they both fit into that character of that surrounding area, so I think that would be positive growth for the area overall.
Any other discussion? I too am going to support the petition. I was concerned that it was going to be an ongoing business in the building, but it sounds like it's going to be storage for your materials and not a full-time business. So I too am going to support the petition. I think it's a minimal relief. As the architect pointed out, if they put it next to the house and attached it, it could be 35 feet tall by code. Any other discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. With that, can I have a motion? Motion to adjourn made by Olin. Do I have a second?
I second the motion.
Motion made and second. We are adjourned at 8:07.